Hi, Moon Hackers. Welcome to our code along today for Birthday Blast Off. This year, Moonhack is celebrating its 10th birthday. We are so excited to share our projects with you and can't wait to see what you create. The Birthday Blast project is a celebration of the global nature of our challenge. We have tens of thousands of children every year from around the world who take part. This year, our project features the voices of some of those children. In our project today, we are using Scratch to send a rocket from Earth up to a cake planet ready for birthday celebrations. And the blast off countdown is in the language of children from around the world. Let's jump into our project and get started. When you clicked on the link and opened up the starter project, this is the screen that you are going to see, the Birthday Blast Off Starter. I am logged into my own account, so I have a remix button here and I'm going to click on to that. If you don't have an account though, you're just going to click on See Inside. So jumping into our project, I can see that we've got 3 sprites here. We've got one stage backdrop, and it looks like a really cool beginning to a project. We're going to start with our rocket sprite. In the project, the sprite is going to start on the launch pad. It's going to have some fire start to build out of the bottom of it, ready to boost it off. We're going to hear a countdown in a language, and it's going to blast off to the cake planet. So let's start off its beginning position. We're going to start with the event when the green flag is clicked. We want to set up the rocket so that it's sitting on the launch pad and it actually looks a bit bigger than it does now. Let's drag across from our motion menu. First one we're going to do is to have it point up. At the moment, it looks like our rocket is flying, but we need to have it standing up on the launch pad. So let's change our angle to 0 degrees. I'm going to drag across a go-to block as well. We will need to set it in its starting position, which is at minus 120 on the x-axis and minus 145 on the y-axis. We're also going to make it look bigger than it is now. At the moment, I can see that it's sitting at 50% in size. So at the start of the project from the looks menu, we need to be able to set its size to 100%. From here, soon when we code the fire, we're going to see that fire start to build. So we're going to give it a little bit of time for that to happen. So from our control menu, let's drag across a wait block, and we're just going to wait for 3 seconds while we see that fire start to build. But once that's happened, we need the blast off, the countdown ready to go. So let's drag across from the sound menu, a play sound until done. If you use this drop-down menu here, you are going to see all the recordings that we have had from young people around the world. Start counting from 10 down to 1 and then saying blast off. So now's a great time to pause the video to go and listen to some of those and choose the one that you are going to have in your project. If you've chosen, I'm going to choose the Dutch Dojo. This one I do love. It's a whole group of young people doing the blast off sequence together. Once you've dragged in or dropped in the one that you want to have happen, what we need now is for our sprite to send a broadcast. So this is like a message that gets sent to all of the sprites, and we can code them if we want to for them to respond to that. We're going to call our new message blast off. It's always great to give them a name that really signals the event that you are going to have this respond to. So we've got blast off and we are good to go. We're going to use this broadcast now for our rocket sprite. When it gives itself that message, it's going to tell this sprite how to move towards the cake planet and actually look like it's blasting off. So let's drag across a new hat, a new event. When I receive. Now at the moment it says message 1, but we can use the drop-down menu to choose blast off. Here what we're going to do is to add blocks of code so that our rocket sprite will actually move towards that cake planet. From our motion menu, we're going to get the block that says point towards. At the moment, it's point towards the mouse pointer, but we're going to choose to point towards the cake planet. So this is going to angle our rocket and it's pointing in that direction. Then we're going to add a block to glide towards the cake planet, and we're going to do that for 8 seconds. We want this lovely motion of it taking off and going there. And when it gets to the cake planet, we actually want the sprite to hide. We want it to look like it has landed on that planet and we've reached the destination. Now, our code at the moment, if we were to have this take place, our rocket ship is going to be at 100% size. Let me change that in the menu here just to give you a bit of an idea. So it's going to be large like this. As we get it to go towards the planet, we want that to actually shrink in size, giving the illusion that it's getting further away from us. We're going to start with another event, just like before. When I receive the message, blast off. Now, to make this look like it's a really smooth shrinking size, we're going to use one of our loop blocks. And in this, we're going to repeat this task 55 times. Seems like a lot, I know. The reason that we do it more times is that we change and only have a small increment of the size changing. The more times we do it with a smaller change each time, the smoother it looks. Let's add in a block where we are going to change the size from the looks menu. Down here, change size. We're going, oops, not underneath, inside the loop. I'm going to change by -1.5. Now, if we were to leave it and run it like that, those would actually happen so quickly that it would look like one change. So we're going to add in a control block of a wait just underneath that looks block, and we're going to wait 0.1 seconds. So a really short time before it slowly shrinks. So this, you can see, it's a nice, slow shrinking. Okay. Ooh, that's how tiny it's going to get when it gets up to here. And when it reaches that cake planet after 8 seconds, it's going to hide. So right now is a really great time to test your code. Here's our lovely rocket heading off towards the cake planet. And as soon as it gets there, it's going to hide like it's landing. So we have our fantastic code here for our rocket. It's disappeared. It's landed on the moon. I'm ready to play again. But no, there's no rocket. There is no rocket. What have we done? The answer is we told it to hide on the planet. But when we start with the green flag, we need to tell it to show. So let's add in a show block. I might put it here underneath the set size. Now when I start, my rocket is back. Great job, everyone. Now is the time to create the fire that goes with the rocket. For this section, we need the fire sprite. So let's click on that one. We go to a blank screen. There is no code here for our fire sprite, but we are about to code it. Before we do that though, let's jump to the costumes tab. In here, you can see there are 4 different costumes, each a different color and some different shapes. This is going to give some dynamics to our fire that's going to come out. And the code for this section was inspired by a code club member from Sri Lanka. They were very keen to share their language in the countdown, but also sent through some ideas for the project. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, our code here. We need to set up our fire for what it needs to do from the very beginning of the project. So let's add a green flag event block. When this is clicked, we need the fire to hide. Let's jump to the looks block and drag across a hide. We also need to set its starting position. So from the movement one, we're going to select the go to button and we're going to tell it to go to the rocket. So this is going to link the fire to the rocket at all times. From here, we also need to tell the fire sprite to be at the back. We want it to sit behind the rocket. So from the looks menu, if you go down here, we're going to select this block. It says go to front layer, but we can change and select the back layer. We don't want the fire on top of the rocket, making it look like the rocket ship is on fire. That would not be good. To make this look fantastic, we need the sprite to create lots of copies of itself. We call them clones. So in the control menu, let's go down and we first of all want to grab a forever loop. So we want the clones to keep going forever and grab a create clone of myself and drop that into the loop. We also want to be able to tell it to wait a certain amount of time before the next clone is created. So let's grab a wait block and drop it inside that loop. We're going to use a pick random operator here, anywhere between 0.2 and 0.4 seconds before it creates that next clone. That gives a bit of randomization to how quickly they come out. Now we've got our fire sprite all set up. It knows where to go, to be at the back layer, and to keep creating clones of itself. Let's tell it what to do when it begins as a clone. So back in the control menu, grab that hat block when I start as a clone. Okay. The very first thing we want it to be able to do, let's go and grab a show block from the looks menu. Starts as a clone, we want it to show up on screen. We also want it to be able to choose what costume to show as. So let's add in a switch costume block. Again, we want to make this a random pick. So let's drop in a random operator and it can choose costumes between numbers 1 and 4. You might choose to add some more costumes in here, so the 4 would then become a different number. We need each of those clones to go to the rocket. So let's grab a motion block, tell it to go to the rocket. And from here, we're actually going to set its direction. Now we use 2 blocks here. The first one, we are going to use the point in direction block. So drag that one across. But we actually need it to receive some information from the rocket sprite to know what direction to point in. So let's jump into the sensing block. I'm going to scroll down and you're going to grab this one here that says backdrop number of stage and drop it in place of that 90. So at the moment it's referring to the stage, but we don't want to refer to the stage. We actually want to refer to the rocket. So select rocket. And from here, you can see that our selections here have now changed and we're going to choose direction. So what we're telling our fire sprite here to do is it's going to point in direction of whatever the direction the rocket is pointing in. So remember, we start our rocket facing up. If the clone is created and our rocket is up, it's going to tell our fire to be up. If it is moving on its way up to the cake planet and it's on a different angle, our fire is also going to match that angle. So that's what this block is telling us to do. Okay. Now, the important part here, though, is that the fire starts at the bottom of the rocket and comes out. So we need to completely now flip the direction of that sprite. So we're going to choose a turn, and we're going to turn our sprite by 180 degrees. If we left it the same as the rocket, the fire would shoot up. We want to be able to tell it to shoot down. To create a little bit of randomness in our rocket as a fire as well, coming out the bottom, we're then going to drop in another turn, and we're going to use again the pick random operator, and we're going to tell it to choose anywhere between 10 and minus 10 degrees. So it has flipped to the 180, so it's going to come out backwards, but there's going to be a little bit of difference in each of those. So it looks like it's spreading out from the bottom of the rocket. So from here, we're going to code that sprite to then do that movement away from the rocket. So let's add in a repeat loop, and we're going to repeat this 8 times. And 8 times, we're going to get the motion block to move 10 steps. It's going to move away. Awesome. Now, almost finished with this algorithm. It's moved away. We need to be able to tell it once it has completed those steps and the fire has moved away from the bottom of the rocket, the fire doesn't keep going and it doesn't just stay on screen. So after it has done that, we're actually going to tell it to create a new clone of itself before it then is deleted. So you can imagine that it's created as a clone, goes to the rocket, moves 10 steps away 8 times from the bottom of the rocket, creates a new one which goes to the top of the rocket, but then it deletes itself. So this is going to create our fire coming out of the rocket. Let's test and see how our fire goes. I'm just going to run this code block here. I've got my fire building. Fantastic. It's exactly what I want to have happen. So now if I run my whole code,
tien, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off!
awesome, my fire is coming out, my rocket is shrinking, it's making it to the planet. Oh, our fire is still going. Think we better fix that. So we've got our clone deleting itself, but it keeps creating new ones. Let's go and use that event, that message that was broadcast when I receive blast off. We're going to use our fire sprite having to use that. We're going to add a wait. We're going to wait 8 seconds. And then we're going to tell it to stop all. So that will now stop our fire from continuing as we reach the planet. Congratulations on completing your project. Now that you've completed the project, what are you going to do to improve it, to change it, and to make it even better? I've heard lots of suggestions from our Moonhack testers about what they think they would do. We've had ideas such as confetti bursting out of the planet when the rocket reaches it, singing happy birthday. You might come up with a way that the user of your project could actually choose the language that they want to have. You might create buttons down the bottom or some kind of menu where they can select. Perhaps you're going to turn this into a game where the person is in charge of deciding where the rocket goes. There are so many different ways that you could change this project, and we can't wait to see what they are. Thank you for taking part in Moonhack. I can't wait to see your finished projects. Make sure that an adult has registered you as taking part and you receive your certificate for being part of us this year. Happy birthday, Moonhack, and happy coding, everyone.